There we go.
I have your volume down here. Gally, can you say something quick?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Alright, so on OBS, I think it's fine. Oh, wait, you're coming only out of one, though. Shit. Everything's gotta be so complicated.
Okay, I can hear it now in the stream.
Right, I just gotta make sure that the stream, it's doing it like where you can only hear them out of one. Let's see. Gotta make it mono. Oh, yep, here we go. Yep, there you go. You should be good. Don't turn the light on it, though. We back, guys?
I was like hearing it in my pocket. I was like, what the fuck is that?
All right. So I guess if you want, you can express your take on Centurion again.
Okay, so my take on Centurion is that the deck is absolutely like a tier 1 deck right now. And I don't think the deck's solved at all. I think that has a lot of room for improvement. And I think the engine is very compact. It can fit a lot of different choices. And I think as soon as someone figures out how to consistently do other lines than Calamity with another engine, it's going to immediately shoot up to be one of the best decks. Along with that, it has room for support. And it's like 1 to 2 support cards away from being the best deck. I'm a hard Centurion believer. I think that deck is just insane. If it gets a way to make a level 2, so that I can consistently make synchro 10s, it immediately shoots up to like probably the best deck, unquestionably.
Yeah, I played Centurion online for a little while when it first came out, and I always thought like potentially, but at that point I didn't think it was great. Like I heard a couple people make the claim too. That's why I always kind of just parrot it, repeat what I heard, that it's like a worse Manadium at that time, because most of the idea, like you were saying, was Calamity. But now that I've not only see it consistently topping, but after watching players play with it, it's like, oh, okay, there's a lot of room here for new lines and new cards. And it was already that strong coming in,
Yeah, that's the thing. The engine on it's small. I think it's like 18 cards total. That gives you 22 free spots to play with. I don't know what engine is supposed to fit in there because I haven't tested it enough myself. I'm just going off of results I'm seeing and like the variety in builds, along with the ability that I'm seeing for just like how free it is when like I've seen it play, especially when even if they don't Calamity lock you, if you don't kill them or set up like 2 to 3 interruptions, that whole engine just resummons itself.
Yeah, it bounces back pretty quickly.
What about you, B? What do you think? I think you was muted when we was.
Yeah, I still think it's like a definitely probably top deck, but I think it, like I said, what he just said with if it had like 2, like a little bit more support, ain't it supposed to be getting support? And like,
I don't know if we have any announced support yet.
Okay. I thought they did.
But yeah, as soon as they get a better, like an like a Synchro 12 that's an interaction, or if they get a level 2 tuner or non-tuner, or a way to like turn one of their level like 8s or 4s into a level 2, that deck is just unquestionably absurd.
Isn't like the runic engine also like a similar card count? That's why it's kind of talked about a lot.
Or like
within that same
17 engine cards.
Yeah, but I think the runic's weird because it's able to mix in better because it's not like it doesn't take up your normal summon. It's like kind of low extra deck space. I think it's like a deck in itself for runic. But like it meshes well. I don't think Centurion pretty meshes well because it eats your normal summon. but I do think there is a lot of like room for tech choices in it. It just, like I said, just really needs that negate level 12 to exist, or a way to like make Baron consistently. And as soon as it has those, I think the deck's just insane.
Okay, so
Fair.
we agree that this deck's a tier 1 deck for now. Dark World.
Yeah.
Where's baby?
I think it's probably.
Fucking needing.
Can we put a new tier list? We'll just put Mosher.
I think Dark World is the deck you bring to an event when you want to win die rolls all day. I think it's a deck that has like a low.
Deck. Like, the deck is insane if it goes first and it doesn't get interrupted.
Yeah, I like C.
I think it's the best deck when you have a good day, but if you're just having an average day or a bad day, it's the worst deck to pick. Because as soon as you face like a droll and a shifter, like twice, you're out of the tournament.
Yeah, that's like, yeah.
If you get drolled twice in one match, or even if you lose the die roll and get drolled once, your tournaments, you're immediately X1. And I think it's a terrible deck choice just because of that. I do think the deck is turbo scary though. So that you probably will have a positive win rate as long as you play really well. Yeah, I think C is fair.
Yeah, I think C is fair too. Dragon Link. The Dragon Link.
Are we including like the Horus builds?
Like the Bestials too, like all the Bestial variants. I want to say it's like
Horus.
4.5.
I think I would put it kind of where Centurion is, which I think it's an overall better deck than Centurion, but I just think actually Centurion's not solved yet.
Yeah, well, the problem with dragons is it's definitely tier 1, I think, too, because it stays in and out of competitive play. You know, and you got to constantly hit dragons. It's like is it
Centurion's the worst best deck right now. I think it's the worst tier 1.
Because I don't think dragons is 1. I don't think so. Because I think dragons lose the draw. It's like it's a great deck, but
I think if we're counting like the Horus Bestial builds as like dragons too.
Yeah,
I think we can count it as tier 1. If we're not, I think like if we're talking about like Rocket Dragon Link, that deck's probably like tier 3.
Yeah, Rockets are not it.
I still like the Rocket. I still like the Rocket Bestial though.
I can't lie.
Yeah.
I think it's super fun, and I think it's got a lot of like room for creativity. But if you're good enough to pilot the deck optimally, you might as well just play a better deck.
True.
Yeah, let's just put it in tier 1 then, because we can agree that if we.
So are we talking right now or post Phantom Nightmare like projections?
Oh, this is all post.
Yeah. Oh, post Phantom Nightmare, I think that deck's ass cheeks. I think it has a horrible Fire King matchup.
What, Dragon Link?
But I guess if I think like dragons themselves, but if we're talking like the Horus piles, then yeah, I guess it can still be tier 1. I think Horus and Dragon Link differ enough at that point that they're not the same anymore, but we can kind of count them because they'll run similar-ish cards still.
Yeah, we don't have no Horus picture up here, so we'll just...
Then then we can still put it tier 1, but I do think like the current Horus like Bestial builds that are going on, I don't think they'll hold up next format.
Fire.
Yeah,
any particular variant, or you like the?
A lot of the reason why they needed to find a way to, to like actually deal with those cards, because they created some crazy cards. We've just grown numb to them because we use them all the time. But like, you told me 5 years ago that like you're gonna get a monster that banishes something speed and like remove stuff, or like search a dragon, or like set a trap. Like, no way. Like, it just doesn't even seem real.
Oh, I remember I played a 40 card like Bestial hand trap deck, like no actual normal summons or anything, versus Brian one time, and I took a game off him just off summoning Bestials. Like we were just playing on a stream for fun. The deck was 40 hand traps. And like he was playing tier, like a Shizu tier full power, and I took a game off him and I think I won another one if I didn't make a mistake. Yeah, like that's just how strong Bestials themselves are.
Yeah, you just play Bestial control, sometimes, and that play I feel like during tier 0 format where it was like we were playing Bestial tier elements, like it was wild. Like you'd run fucking 9 Bestials and then your tiers, and then you're just sitting there like hitting each other's bestials and tier cards and shuffling. Like that format was wild, and it really really taught me like, okay, these bestial cards, like if one of them, if like a Magnum goes off at the right time, like you literally just gain so much advantage. Like it's unreal.
Yeah, I have this other thing too that I've been doing lately is like I go through decks I played in like older formats, like during like that Tier Shizu format, and I go, do I think that format's more powerful than this current format? No, I don't. So I think if I can play like a deck from that format and it'll still like compete because I was able to handle those other decks. Like that's the reason I played Tri-Sprite. I was like, okay, I was playing like a weaker version of Tri-Sprite during like post what's the format, I guess. It was that like OTS or like the trophy tournament I won with like the try whatever deck.
I remember.
Yeah, the like try with like the nimble engine. I was like, oh, that deck can just like compete. And the only reason I didn't run like the sprite stuff in that format was because you needed more hand traps to stop or like more outs to the Arise Heart. And I was like, okay, I need more outs to Arise Heart, I need more outs to the tier cards. So I can't play as much non-engine. I can play non-engine now, and the deck is just absolutely bonkers. Like it's so strong.
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
Sorry, say it again.
Yeah, the Rise Art format was just crazy. But it's like that card itself like molded everyone's decks.
Yeah, and when I was able to play like a worse version of the deck I'm playing now in like a stronger format, I'm like, oh yeah, I can just play these decks from like a year ago if they competed in that format and feel comfortable with it. Like that's how strong it was. Like a year later, with all these broken cards we've gotten, it still's like the decks that worked last year simply still work because they could compete with tier to an extent, so they're good enough.
From like most duelists, it's just like being able to understand like the levels of power creep and how some cards are still powerful enough even in other formats and they can fit in or find their place in the meta. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, like you're good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like another good one. Everyone was like, oh my god, that card exists still, like the masked Avermax, like going masked Avermax, and that carried me in like 3 different games. Yeah, people were just like, oh, I just don't play an out to that anymore because no one's done it to me in so long.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of those things that like we've forgotten, but like that card, if you don't I don't even know, like you need to have like, you know, I mean Dingirsu like will take care of it, but like right now it only happens that we're in somewhat like an Orcust in the format. But like before that, like who's dealing with that?
Post Phantom Nightmare Fire King's definitely tier 1.
Oh yeah, so we can talk about fire.
Yeah, there's no question. That deck's been getting a bunch of tops, and it's being crutched by Wanted, that Bellstar stuff, right?
I don't know. I don't think you need to play Wanted currently, but I think next format you will. I just don't think there's good targets for Wanted for the
Strav pretty well without it.
Yeah, Trison's playing Prosperity. He's not playing Wanteds, and like the deck is still really nice.
Nice.
But yeah, next format, Popless is such a like ridiculous card that I think it's mandatory. Like the one card like normal summon. There's a one card line that sets up like 5 negates.
Yeah, 5 negates seems like we need to start playing Dark Ruler.
A lot of interruptions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It is 2 hard monster negates, 1 and 2 Omni negates, and then a Master Arena line.
Into like Little Knight, right?
I mean, Little Knight or Appaloosa, whichever one. I don't think it matters.
And that's with like Fire Princess and Grave.
Oh, that's right. We have Fire Princess too. I didn't even account for that. Yeah, that'll be on the end board too.
That's like next farm.
Well, right, but we're talking post, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What about normal summon Rabina? Where does that deck sit?
Two are either C.
think?
Because I feel like the only thing that they rely on is fucking Shifter, bro.
And Featherstorm.
Yeah, you know, I feel like
I think that's another Dark World tier deck where it's good, but it's only good if you're drawing good. If you don't see Featherstorm, you just lose going first into a lot of decks because your end board's not that scary, especially post side when they can side in outs to your board.
Right, you get a droplet or a lava
Bro, you get red deck eating, or you get red deck eat, or you get like cyclone on your field spell and you're crying. Like that, just loses to a lot of stuff. I don't think I've lost a Flunder in tournament in like a year. Ever since they lost Statue, that deck's been a buy.
Yeah. I just recently cooked the fucking Flunder. Like game 3, he set like all back row and then like a Rabina. What's the big bird?
Empin.
Yeah, Empin, and I fucking lightning stormed his back row and then like impermed his bird and then just went full combo.
Yeah, I think without Statue, you actually have to be a good player, and most good players just aren't going to choose Flunder because it's so RNG.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like they have Mystic Mine or any of those crazy cards anymore, too.
Yeah, it's like Featherstorm, or like sometimes you play against decks that lose to Shifter, but I don't think Shifter is like even that impactful outside of Fire Kings.
Yeah, I think Flunder is like for like budget players / like new players coming into the game.
Because it's one of those decks where like you don't have to be good at it, and you can cheese wins on like your average player.
Cheese wins though. Labyrinth.
But very annoying. I fucking hate that deck though. You know, it's just like
the birds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's frustrating because they don't have to do much, I feel like, to achieve what they need.
Yeah, I think like it does take like a little bit of skill to play optimally, but like you don't have to play optimally to win with it half the time. So it just feels like it's a super free deck, but like that's because most of its wins just come off of like cheesing like turn skip
to beat a dead horse, but Shifter.
Yeah. Like, without Statue, you have to be like somewhat competent to play it if you don't see one of your floodgates. And just most people who play that deck they just aren't that competent at the game. Because most people who pick a deck, they pick a deck because the playstyle is either enjoyable or it's good, and it's neither of those things right now. Like when I make my deck choices now, I'm just picking a deck where I have control of what I'm doing. I don't like playing like bricky stuff. I don't like playing stuff where if I don't see a certain card, I'm gonna automatically lose. And I think most people kind of make the choice. You can see that with Jesse Cotton, like specifically playing like Unchained. He picked that deck because it's the deck where he has the most control over his plays.
Sure.
Because the deck's playing through everything. And so you just get to play Yu-Gi-Oh when you play that deck most of the time. And I feel like Flunder doesn't always get to play Yu-Gi-Oh, or even like most of the time gets to play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Unless that map resolves, then then they get to play a little bit, but a little more.
What up, gamers?
How's it going?
It's all right. Just finished up watching Prague with my bro and was just chatting up about things with the format and such.
Wonderful. That's a great time to join.
Yeah, after you guys do the tier list and such like that.
Yeah, we're still working on it.
We're working on it. No screen share going on here.
It's just streaming right now. So.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Kind of like a forced way to interact. I love it.
Yep. All right, so let's see. What do we got going on here? We got Centurion, we got Dragon Link, we got Snake Eyes Fire King. I'm assuming that's what that is.
Yeah, I think it's just like a fire generic, basically. Outside of like Rescue Ace, which is its own deck.
Yeah, Rescue Ace is its own. Okay, to be fair, though, Rescue Ace Fire King is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. They like cover each other's like basis. Where it's like the Fire Kings put out big bodies and then Rescue Ace puts out the spell trap that disrupts. Funny concept.
No, it works though. Like Pat got a top with that.
Hell yeah, especially if you got the Diabell engine, then that lets you access one or the other side, whichever you're lacking, which is crazy.
Did you watch that deck profile?
I didn't know.
He was laughing through like the whole shit.
Yeah, Pac thought that deck was funny. I don't think he expected to win or top with that.
I mean,
deck.
theoretically, on paper, it does everything it needs to compete. You know, that's the thing.
Yeah, it just gets
like,
awkward.
Turbulence is so good. Like I don't care what anybody says. Like that card is fucking broke.
Turbulence is number one imperm target right there.
Look,
and you just hope the emergency the emergency gets used before then.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we were saying that like Fire Nation is on top of Dragon Link, and Dragon Link here is with like the horror stuff.
Of course.
And then we think that that Dragon Horus or Bestial Horus is better.
I would say for this format, just because I don't think they've shown any Centurion support in like Legacy of Destruction, I would say it would probably be like in the next ban list around like the May-June area is when Centurion will get support, similar to when Purrely did last year with that Cyberstorm access.
Yeah, I think.
So I would just put Centurion in like 1.5, just because like I think there's a clear difference between like the Fire and the Dragon Link being established, play styles, whereas Centurion kind of needs to mix and match and still figure itself out. Horus variant definitely one of the stronger ones, though.
Does anyone have the link to the current format results?
I had posted them in the chat in the spreadsheet.
I know. I normally have it. I just didn't save it.
Probably pull it up like on the chat, like
yeah. I want to look at all the time. Oh, I probably have it saved on my Google Docs from going into it before. Because I think they have like the look at your last documents viewed or whatever. So I'll try to find that.
So what deck aside from the Centurion, what were you guys talking about before I jumped in?
And then we were talking about Dark World being in the C tier.
Yeah, 100%. Dice a Droll. Everyone wants to run Droll in this format, honest to God.
Yeah, but we're also like acknowledge that it could be very scary if they get the die roll and they have a good day.
They also have access, because it's an 8-axis deck, it's able to do that. Access to the King Buzz, which lets you get a peek at the opponent's extra deck and bin a card. You got Coach King stuff, but you also have King Buzz, or Buzz King rather. The new card in Maze of Memories.
Oh, see, I didn't know about that one.
I personally pre-ordered one at like $9 because I'm like, this is a good one-off to shove in a Horus deck because it's essentially Kashtira Unicorn, but any 8 deck can make it.
Yep, and then
card's very silly. Rip an SP out, or rip a Typhon or a Zeus.
Taking a Typhon or a Zeus away is
yeah.
We love rank 8.
We do, and the thing is like now I feel like the Horus engine doesn't need to rely on Coach King, because like if you imperm Coach King, then like the deck kind of crumbles. So what you can do now is you can do Buzz King or Zombie Vampire, because you'll have 4 bodies if you use all 4 names. So then you can at least get those 2 rank 8s out.
Oh man, rank 8s keep getting more powerful and more powerful. Blue Eyes is going to be a thing, I think. And I was like, Horus Blue Eyes might be a thing now too.
What is this? What is this? 2015 again? Was that 2015?
Team Sam tries to make that happen every year. It's hilarious.
Is that new card a number card?
It is number 1, yeah.
Number 1.
Infection King, Buzz King, yeah.
That card's a sleeper card. It's probably going to be like a few dollars, and then it'll jump to like 20.
Yeah, probably, because it's like one of the other decent ultras. But again, it's only for like Horus decks specifically that I think can just run it out quick.
Sure, it's just like a $2 to $3 card. Make a little money.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got as far as the Little Birds. What do you think about the Little Birds? We still put them in C tier, low C tier.
I would put them in low C tier, but the fact that they can main deck D-Shifter is pretty funny.
All right. So looking at it right now, Centurion is tied with Labyrinth, Fire King, and Branded.
Wow.
For the same amount of tops.
1.5 then.
Yeah.
I think 1.5.
Yeah. If it's tied for tops with those decks, that's also like 1.5 tier.
Actually, that's crazy. Kashtira is ahead of all of those decks right now.
Yeah, because Kashtira main D-Shifter.
Yeah, it's nasty.
I mean, all those cards are insane.
So the fun thing with the Diabellstar engine for Kashtira is Diabellstar is a 7, so you get access to rank 7s. She gets a level 1. If you get the Jet Synchron out, you get access to 8s with Synchro plays with the caches, and that's just a bit degenerate.
Yeah, getting access to like a Boral Savage and then like Heat Soul. It's kind of crazy.
Oh, shout out to the guy that topped what was it, a WCQ recently with Speedroid Kashtira. That was mad funny.
What?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Speedroid Kashtira is like kind of a meme, but like if you just the unicorn in that deck is perfect because they just want wind monsters anyways.
Exactly. The link to the deck right here that topped.
Oh yeah, if you haven't played against Speedroid, that deck is like legitimately terrifying sometimes.
Yeah, I
can't
posted
believe
it.
that one unicorn gave Cash that much power. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it is a big consistency boost. I think that's the main reason. Like,
yeah, looking at this deck, it's able to run, honestly, if you cut like the Ghost Mourner to 1 and then just run 3 Droll instead. But yeah, they're running like 12 hand traps.
So is it clear to say on paper Kashtira is the best deck?
no, it's Rescue Ace right now.
Okay, Rescue Ace has the most tops right now.
I think Race is one of the stronger ones just because it's able to bounce back on whatever hand traps you toss at it.
It also has like it has the most tops by like quite a margin too. It's by far the best deck.
I think it's gonna get even better with like more people having access to it now thanks to the reprints. Okay. It's gonna have higher representation now in the game because it's gonna be seen as a cheaper deck now.
Yeah, with all the Maze reprints, right?
Yeah, super Hydrant and super Turbulence. I'm sorry to anyone that paid like $300 for these.
Yeah, ones. I just picked up my whole core for 50.
There you go.
Yeah.
Man, that's love. I need me a Rescue Ace core now. But
I was seeing them on pre-sales for 15. I was seeing them on pre-sales for 15 for cores.
I feel like
it'll probably be cheaper than that too.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like the supers will be like $2 supers.
So Rescue Ace by far best deck. No question.
Yeah, even I can agree with that. Although I would also, I'm gonna be real. Tier is a scary deck this format.
Yeah, Tier still is like less of a lotto deck, which is nice, but like it's still just like it's not that consistent. I've played like whenever I play against it, it feels like half the time they don't do anything, and the other half the time they open just like they do like everything they wanted to still. So I don't know. It feels like average.
My Akashi combo is pretty gross.
I don't think that'll see like a ton of legitimate play because I think Tier's already bricky, and I feel like if you're getting to the point where you have a Beatrice, you probably win anyways. But I'm sure people will still do it.
I just linked in the general chat the deck that topped in Germany for the Horus Destiny Tearlaments. I think this build is one of the tightest tiered builds I've seen, and I'm not even
I think I've seen that.
Yeah,
the impulse for attacker because the attacker turns on your tier cards during your opponent's turn. It's so funny.
Yeah, people tried that in the tier format before. It wasn't worth it then. I think now it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't back then it was like, why would you do that when you could mill 10 cards, recycle them, mill another 10 cards? Like,
I think we're going to see a resurgence of Super Poly as a side card again if people want to try and lighten up their extra deck space just because of all the fire decks roaming around. Swamp Dragon or Mud Dragon looks really strong.
Yeah, agreed. I feel like Super Poly is going to be a staple, and I feel like it'll almost be mained because of all the fire.
Yeah.
Great. I think that card should be banned. I hate that card.
Too bad we can't ban it. Ubel needs to sell, and Ubel searches Super Poly, so we needed to sell Phantom Nightmare packs. Nope.
What do you work for Konami now? Like, we need that sponsorship. We need them boxes.
No, you gotta think like Konami to understand what it is that they want to top, and right now they want fire to top. That's why Diabellstar's so good. That's why it's also expensive as hell.
Yeah, it's also why aggro boxes are still like sold out everywhere. And
of course. Do you think they're gonna do an unlimited printing of AGOT? Is the question.
Oh, I think so.
Do you think going back to the tier mention, would you put that at 1.5 or 2 then?
Tier? I would put that at like next to Centurion, maybe.
Yeah, I'm fine. That seems. I think Centurion has more results, but so I'm gonna say I think tier is Dark World, not tier. It's not like the Dark World tier, but it's Dark World if you want to play a good deck.
Mm-hmm. It can if it high rolls, you're dead. But if you're able to disrupt it and they didn't open the nuts, then you're living. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if their hand's not crazy and you're playing like any competent deck, you can just go through it.
Yeah.
Especially post side, the deck gets a lot worse into a lot of cards. Like if you've ever evenly a tier player for their lunch money, oh, I feel so good.
Yes. Yeah.
The lunch money though.
True.
Bro. Yeah, bro. They spent that $20 they had for lunch and they're out of the tournament.
Yeah.
So where do we put tier? 1.5 or tier
1.5?
I think 1.5. I think you put it behind Centurion for now, because at least Centurion's like are consistently doing stuff.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Tier, you're either getting top 4 or you're not getting top at all.
Yeah.
Whereas like Centurion, you could consistently top 8 with that deck probably.
Yeah.
You could almost win. You could almost guarantee that you might, if you have a good day with tier, like you might win the whole event.
True.
Yeah. If you have a good day with Centurion, you're still gonna like lose to some random stuff, just because it has like hard counters. But you're probably gonna only lose once that day. On a good day. Whereas like a good day with tier, you're probably gonna go undefeated, but a bad day with tier, you're gonna drop X3 at round 5. A bad day with Centurion, you're gonna go X2.
Yeah.
I think that's probably how I would describe it.
That's definitely fair. Manadome, where's the golden boy? I think that's still like either 1.5 or tier 1. I know that like Triff has all these crazy lists with the Diabell Star stuff, but I've also seen like some more pure lists with like Called and the reframing and.
My issue is that we're going into a droll format, and Manadium is always weak in a droll format.
Respect Manadium
as that's like the only
kind of go crazy.
I don't respect Manadium as a deck. I've never lost to it in a tournament. I don't think that deck's that good.
I would put it at 2, top of 2, probably. Honest to God.
I think once you know how to I think Manadium gets a lot of wins of people not knowing where to interrupt it. Because I think the deck is fragile. I do think it is probably the best tier. It's probably the best tier 2 deck.
Yeah.
But I think it's too heavy on combo. If you play too much on engine, it's not going to work because it needs too many cards to play like and end on like properly. And it's too easy to disrupt once you know where to hit it.
What's it seen for results?
It's kind of in that range there. I might be a little bit better than tier 2, but I do think that's I think that's player dependent. I do. Let me reopen it.
I think top of tier 2 or bottom of 1.5 makes sense. Yeah, I do agree with that.
Manadium's been getting tops though.
But
all right, let me look where Manadium is.
Very few representation.
Like tier 1.5 above like Tearlaments, like.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm fine with that. Manadium gets a lot of tops. I think that deck preys on people not knowing the matchup, though. I think once you know how to hand trap and interact with that deck properly, I think that deck's cake. But you make one mistake against that deck and you lose.
Yep.
Yeah, I just feel like it's been getting a lot of tops still. Like, how many tops exactly does it have?
It has 20 right now. So it is ahead of like a lot of the other decks, but
it's not ahead of Centurion and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's ahead of Centurion. It's ahead of like Labyrinth, Bestial. It's ahead of a lot of the decks. Technically, by like representation, it's number 3, I believe.
Oh, in tops.
Yeah. So in tops, it's number 3. Which I don't think is real.
That argues tier 1, right?
I think so. I don't respect the deck. I don't think it's a good deck, but it
like,
does have results.
Facts, like we're just going based off like hard facts. I know, like we all have like our opinions and our own like perspective on our own battles per se with these decks. But I want to say
I thought that's what we were doing.
Probably on the lower end, but it's still better. I don't know if it's better than like Bestial Horus and the Dragon stuff.
Trying to see, because that seems wrong. that it has that many, because it doesn't. I'm going through like the list of tops, and there's not very many. Okay, it's an EU deck. That's why it doesn't top US. It just has EU tops.
Manadium?
Yes. It is an EU Slayer.
Is another plant deck basically.
Yeah. Apparently EU players don't want to learn combo lines.
So they just get smoked by Astrolaut.
Because so I was like going through the list, and I was like, I'm just like looking at like the NA events, and I'm like, there's no Manadium here. There's like one Manadium in like the 3 NA top 8s, and then I scroll down, and there's like a regional in Europe that has like 4 Manadium players stopping.
Okay, so let's put her on the lower end of. Let's put her on the high end of tier 1.5.
Yeah, I think it's like 1.5. The reason why it's like that, and the reason why I think it lacks tops, is because I think a lot of people moved on, even myself, because I used to play the deck, and like you said, you constantly lose just the draw. Like you don't lose to nib, you don't lose to like any other hand trap besides
I think
draw.
you like lose to draw, and you lose to yourself a lot. For me to like,
yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, like I see a lot of Canadian players where they just like they open up their one starter and then they get ashed on it, and there's like, oh, my hand is just a bunch of random garbage cards that don't actually do anything. Or they get like hands where they play through literally everything, and there's like no in between. It feels like, or you just like you get drolled and you end up like a Baron, and it's like it just isn't enough, and you don't have enough room for non-engine slots to where you're drawing good enough. Because as much as I like Manadium, like I've tested it and stuff, it just doesn't feel that good. Like if you open a bunch of meeks and you don't open your playable cards, or you open a bunch of your like non-engine pieces, like your hands just do not do anything sometimes. And I feel gross every time I've tested that deck.
What do you think about it, Adam? Oh, did he leave? All right, well, Labyrinth. This is probably tier 1, I want to say.
Yeah. I think Labyrinth's fine.
Probably on the higher end. How many like, above like the dragon stuff?
I'll put it below.
I think they're probably about similar. Labyrinth really depends on if people are prepared for it. If Bell's is where, like right now, I think Bell's in the side of a lot of people. And if you get belled and you get ashed, you're losing that game immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's definitely true. I feel like everybody's side deck, their main in ash and their side in bell, and that's like an issue with Labyrinth. So
I also think that gets slapped by Super Poly so hard.
It does.
Yeah.
People could also be putting in Cosmics, because Cosmic can deal with Fire King Island without triggering the Sanctuary to pop something else instead. So, like, you can Cosmic stuff they set in the back row.
And, like, Crow and Base Shields are popular. There's just so much stuff that are hard to deal with in that deck.
So you think transactional rollback doesn't do much for Lab?
So it's funny you mentioned transaction rollback, because everyone looks at it and it's so good for Lab, but I think the deck that benefits the most from transaction rollback are Virtual World variants.
Okay, so I was thinking about it. I'm like, why do people think rollback is so good in Lab? And I was like, trying to process why everyone's like, starts insane in Lab. And what I realized is that everyone's like focusing on the fact that you're like, oh, you get to summon more. Or you get to skip your opponent's turn. No, the reason that card's good in Labyrinth is because you pitch it off of a furniture and you go, okay,
exactly.
Welcome. Yeah. I'm just gonna get 2 welcome effects.
Yep. And
like people are hyper focused on like the turn skips, and I was like, the turn skips aren't consistent though. Like they're just convenient. But yeah, if you're playing that deck and you just resolve welcome twice, you actually just feel really good.
Yeah, because you get the regular lady and you can get big lady too, and then you're like freaking cooking with the 2 on board with some set cards.
Yeah, so if you open like furniture plus if you open furniture plus 2 clock now, before it didn't really get you anywhere, and now with the transaction in hand too. Your discards before didn't really go anywhere, but now it gets you to both your people on board, and then you're able to like keep playing and doing stuff, which is kind of interesting. Also, I don't know if we have confirmation, but I believe the new ruling is you can use it on Eradicator, and that's been confirmed. Yes. You just don't get the 3 turns.
Oh, really?
Because the 3 turns are part of it being activated.
I see. You're just activating the effect, the original. That's still fine though, because you get. Hitting spells is such a strong effect.
The problem that deck I think will have though is that Fire King is a near unwinnable matchup.
Yeah, they kind of do a lot, but having access to different dimension ground makes it really good.
Yeah, I mean, you can different dimension on script, and that's pretty nice. But if they go first and you don't have a way to different dimension ground, they're just going to start picking your board apart with pops, and then you're going to just get outgrinded.
Yep, I agree on that.
What up, Dave?
Somebody said Flu is scarier than Dragon Link. Like Floowandereeze is scarier than dragons.
Nah.
That's what chat's saying.
Me hitting him with the imperm. What?
All right, I think the chat's saying that because they think we're talking about Dragon Link. We're not just talking about Dragon Link. We're also talking about Horus.
Yeah.
We just went like, okay, if you're playing
Ignore Striker Dragon,
like dragons in it, and they still play Striker in like the black metal build, like the one that Cookie plays. So like, that's why Striker's there. Striker's just there to like any deck that's linking dragon cards away for any reason is a Dragon Link deck. Don't question it.
Shu in chat says that Flu is scarier than D-Link. Like, and penguins are scary though.
Yeah. No, like Adam said, Imperm.
Yeah. Imperm, Ash, Valor. Bro, people are playing Imperm and Valor because Monster Effect Negation is so
another thing people are forgetting here is that we're talking about post-Photon Hypernova. If we're talking about Horus in that format, Horus also has another Wedding setting now, so it's a much more real deck.
It is.
I think before, Horus wasn't a deck itself. And it wasn't like, it was just like, this is nice if you get to it. Now Horus is, you're going to see it consistently.
The field spell is just insane, and I would not be surprised if they just limited the field spell.
John, do you want to add cash to this?
Yeah, I wanna add cash to this.
Yeah.
We need cash. Let me just look at the
you should just put the archetypes from post Phantom Nightmare as well, like all the premier ones, so we can talk about those as well. I think is something that we can say. So you got the voiceless voice, and you've got Goblin Biker, or Goblin Rider rather. Those are like the new premier archetypes, and I know Raid Raptor gets some new tools that give them yet again more
circle
powers
back
types
tomorrow or the next day, and like add those new ones. But just for right now,
the only deck size
because like
that we need on there is branded and Sprite in terms of like current / going into new format.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely do need branded. I agree. I think branded's in a great spot, especially if you're not doing the gimmick puppet shenanigans.
Right.
Yeah, gimmick puppet shenanigans are so much worse because Crow and Bell are in a lot of decks.
Yep, exactly. It's just in a very bad spot to be doing that kind of stuff. But I do feel like branded, like Mirror Jade's such a crazy card, bro.
It is.
Yo, the Juice YGO said Sorcel is pretty decent too.
So
Sorcel is good, but Sorcel's power, it's like it's power, like the format.
I wouldn't pick Sword Soul over any deck this format. Any like of the decks up here this format.
It's a good budget choice, though. I will say that much. If you play Sword Soul Super Heavy Samurai.
Okay, you're cooking.
Shout out to Grant. Thank you for the love.
Do you guys not know about like that deck? Because my brother takes that shit to locals, and he's like, "Here's a typical end board I make," and he sent me this image.
Sword Soul is
the.
I have that deck too. I think that deck is really good. I just don't like that I can't play spells or traps. Just those cards are really good. I don't think it's a bad deck. I just don't like. It's kind of like in a Dark World sense where like sometimes you play against the person who's playing the outs to your cards, or you just like go second sometimes, and you just can't break boards as effectively as like you would like to.
Yep. The spell card that he has on that end board is supposed to be the the whatchamacallit, the Yang Zing counter trap instead.
What about branded Chimera? We do gotta add that. Like Chimera, I feel like got better,
we can talk about it. I do like the new tools they got with Phantom Nightmare. The battle trick that they got is kind of cool. It turns off all monsters that the opponent currently has on the board at the end of the battle phase. They can't use them for extra deck summoning until their next battle phase starts.
Drew, you gotta come make your case on dinos, bro. Baby. You gotta come hop in here and make your case on dinos.
You gotta come in here and hop in and let us know what you think about the dinos.
Yeah, dinos get support. Like that.
I think we're just including branded with branded Chimera, right? I don't think I care enough to make a difference. They're functionally similar enough where it doesn't really matter. I think so. If we're talking about dinos, I think dinos is one of the scariest decks to play against, because if that deck just opens like Lost World Obi Mist, there is nothing you can do about it other than hope you have the
auto wins. Yes,
you just have to hope you can break the board. However, it has one miss still. If you can get if you don't die on turn 3, that deck has no recovery.
Yeah.
But if they open well enough, you lose. So it's just one of those scary decks where sometimes you just lose to it because it exists.
Yeah.
Tyranno is a card, bro. I mean, like, Ultimate Conductor is just fucking ridiculous.
It can end games. You're correct on that.
Like, I was talking with my little brother, like they haven't made a boss monster like that motherfucker in a while. Like, main deck though. Like,
yeah. I will say one funny thing to keep in mind when playing against Dino is that Misk only protects during the main phase. So during the battle phase, your monster effects are free to deal with the dinos.
Also, if you Fogblade it, they don't get shit. Let's go.
Exactly. PK Horse Adventure, baby. Number one.
I remember I played that deck like the first day it was like legal at locals, and like people thought it was legitimately good, and I just like 2-0'd it. I was like,
I won. I topped a case tournament with it, which was pretty cool.
I 2-0'd it. I think I 2-0'd it in like 15 minutes with Gold Pride.
All right, we can continue theorizing after. Let's continue with the list. Sure. So we got Orcust. Is that what that is, or is just any engine of Orcust, or what?
It's Orcust.
Orcust variants. I think like Orcust, just like in general, right? Like with Horus.
Yeah.
Just I think it's top tier 2. It has like some okay results, but also I don't think anyone that topped with Orcust didn't. So many of those decks are an Orcust deck, and it's still not even like one of the more represented decks at that point. I think everyone who played Orcust reported their Orcust deck as a top.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sorry, I'm so late. How's everybody doing?
Hey, how's it going, Cookie?
The wise man appears.
Man,
you agree that Orcust is just kind of mid, right?
The voice.
Yeah, I mean, against Orcust, if they just open up the Mech Knight and you've got the Imperm, then they really don't have much to do else then.
Like, they can play Horus cards, they can have Runic cards, and like play through it. But I played Sprite on Monday against someone opening Optimal with the deck. They opened like 3 Runic cards, plus
that is insane.
Nightmare plus Gursu, and they lost still.
How the hell do you lose with that? Jesus.
Sprite cards are good, man. I don't know.
I mean, like, you can summon the Gearsu into like an area where he's got 2 cards in his column with the Hugin, and then set 1 even, and then you can make him a tuner and go into like a 6-play Triad.
Yeah, has our portal to draw off it, I believe.
Are we talking about all Orcust variants or just the Runic version?
All variants.
I think they all kind of suffer the same issue where the Orcust engine in general is a little fragile. So then you're relying on your other engine to kind of carry you, and I don't think there's another engine that fits super, super well. Like, the couple engines that obviously mesh are, I think it's like Super Heavy, which is kind of mid to play, the Horus engine, the Machina build, I believe, topped with it, and then the Runic engine. And I don't think any of those can solo, they're like perfect enough to like carry. They're all kind of just like, okay. Maybe next format, once we have the Horus field, it's better, but...
I have to 100% agree with you, Kyler. So, like, yeah, Orcust just... Like, don't get me wrong, it's now a 1-card-ish fluid combo. Like, if you get a name in there, you got it going. But, yeah, they're just not as strong anymore. And through the testing I've done with it, like, even post-Phantom Nightmare, what it does is it solves the problem of seeing him SETI. But if you don't see a Orcust engine, you're gonna like see some very apparent changes or some very like tangible differences in the engines.
I got a question about that. So do you think that would be solved if, like, let's say next Banlist they put Heartpour to 3?
They would put it to 2 before they put it to 3, and even then I don't think it's the issue there.
Yeah, I think the part of the deck that I think sucks is that if they either Ash, Crow, or Bestial your Harp Horror, and you don't have more access to your engine, which you don't want because other cards are like kind of bad. It feels like you don't do anything. It feels like your deck just accomplished nothing.
Right there, on the money.
That's like kind of the Orcust problem.
I've seen
exactly
some
what he
players
just said.
not even set up like Crescendo when they have Galatea up, and I'm like, what are you doing if you're not setting up Crescendo? I get Babel, but like that's like your big, payoff right there is the Omni Negate.
So I'd have to disagree. The reason why is because unfortunately, outside of the negate, what does Babel do for the deck? Especially when it has another engine that's supplementing its consistency.
Exactly. No, that's what I'm saying. It's like Babel is cool, but I think like the counter trap is like the end play you want to go for. It's like one Omni negates that you can hit at any point. Really
and I'm disagreeing with that.
Okay.
And the reason why is because so you do the Omni negate, right? Every turn past that, it's a dead card. Unless you're activating it on your opponent's turn. Which, don't get me wrong, strong effect. However, right, that card does not facilitate getting something out of your hand. It does not make all of your monsters impervious to Crow and Bestials. And that's its main problem.
I guess so.
Yeah, I think tier 2 is fair. What do you think? What deck optimally capitalizes on the Orcust engine?
I think the Horus next set, but I think there's just better cards you can play with the Horus engine. So you're playing Orcust because you like it, and I think a lot of the decks feel that way. I don't know if Orcust is ever the best one, whereas because I think a lot of the decks you play Orcust because you like playing Orcust. I don't think it's the best Runic variant. I don't think Super Heavy is super good in it, which is like one of the other builds that was like topping it with it. Maybe like the Machina deck that I've seen with it. I think there was like a machine pile with Orcust that topped, and sure, that's probably the best. But that's just because that deck's not very good and not really seeing many results, anyways.
Juice YGO says Purrely, in my opinion, is the best Orcust variant.
Oh yeah, I've seen about that. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, because you could discard.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that's pretty nifty.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, but like, how does non-engine factor into that?
There you go.
Yeah.
The consistency, right? Because like I feel like Purrely is soft.
Then you have the other Orcust issue where I wish these were different cards.
Correct.
100%. I used to play Scrap.
No, I did see a Horus Orcust Adventure that just topped. It was due from
yeah, the Latin guy. Yeah. I seen his
profile. Yeah. That's
it was a Colombian regional though, too. Just to be fair.
Yeah, those are. I've seen some of the lists from those that are a little sussy, and they have like, they have some very questionable decks do well in those. So it's kind of.
Well, you got to remember, bro. They don't have like the money.
Yeah,
they're very rogue.
That's Andres Torres, right? JNC Orcust pile.
Torres, the guy who got banned for the Sorto token.
And all right, so I will say, like,
talking too much.
The thing about those events is you're like going X1 or XO in those events is hard because like the good players are gonna be good from there. But you have a lot of free rounds. You'll get a lot of like I've heard like I remember seeing someone have like a profile where they played like Cubics at like round 4 at one of those tournaments.
Cubics.
And it was like a 6-round regional, and at round 4 they played against Cubics. And I'm like,
game.
So like if you were to
go ahead.
If you wanted like no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you like that.
No,
if you wanted like a more realistic take on that Orcust deck, go to the Oklahoma regional, and you can see. I think it's on Asian Persuasion profile, but like Bell Holster played a 60-card version that was kind of similar to that. That Orcust was just one of engines, and it wasn't doing more than the other stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's one of those. If you need discard fodder and you can play Orcust cards, that's sick. But
I think that's a sick transition. I think it's a sick transition to talking about Purrely, since that's next up on the list, and we were talking about Orcust Purrely. Where do we see Purrely at?
I see Purrely definitely like a tier 2 deck now.
I agree.
Like Noir is not that big of a threat anymore as it used to be.
Yeah. I think the problem with Purrely is there's not enough skill expression, and you're kind of just playing a game of, I hope my opponent doesn't draw the auto win cards against me, and I think that's why it's not. I think the deck is really strong, but I think
so maybe
it's another one of those things. If you're a good player, are you going to pick Purrely when you can like it has less control and like you'll just lose sometimes? Like when Pac played that one up, I remember Pac played Purrely at like 4 different events, and 2 of the events he dropped by round 5, and the other 2 he made like top 8.
Yeah, it's very.
And that's the Purrely problem. Just like some days they just don't play the outs, and other days you face the guys who do and you lose.
Let's not forget that Phantom Nightmare introduces the archetype that just kills Purrely. I think that's very funny.
I wouldn't consider that as like. I mean, like, yeah, you might face it. I don't know how good that deck is though.
No, the main problem with Purrely is like after the ban list, they don't. It was never the 7 material Noir that was the problem. It was never the fact that they drew all them cards. It was them damn hand traps.
Yeah,
the control.
Which is why, so like them losing one of those sleepies made it to where that combo ain't guaranteed no more.
Right.
So you gotta hope your opponent give you to draw 1, and then maybe draw 4.
Yeah, and now especially you're like, if you open the sleepy, there's like a 1 in 3 chance you don't get a good card off of your thing. So if you have to lead sleepy, your hand is just immediately worse.
You listening, Juice? Getting some good some goo off this Purrely stuff, because these are some YCS and regional toppers, man. Like I'm telling you, some goo behind this. They don't just.
Tyler, you made me feel like you would do better if you just.
Why the Juice got like 10 under his belt?
Why would you say I got 50?
What did you say?
I said, Kyler, you made me feel like if you just had more time, you could probably like accomplish a lot.
Yeah.
Because like half the shit I'm saying, bro, or half the stuff we're talking about, like I feel like I don't even gotta speak.
Yeah, that's why we call him the strategist.
Yeah, my problem is
that's like all great counsels, right? It's like you gotta have a circle of wise and great minds to like sharpen steel, because that's the only way we grow, like if the limit is set within your own limitations and you believe that for what you think it is, like that's what you'll always be. But if like, even if I can learn a small thing from you, that within me is a great attribution. All right. So we decided Purrely is like the best of tier 2. With Orcust.
So far, at least, I think.
The runic cards.
I don't know.
You don't know?
So like, I don't want to disrespect the runic cards and put them in tier 2, because the runic cards, like from a shell, just like looking at them, bro. Like, all right, every last one of them instant fusions. Every last one of them utility cards, and they got a draw card that just happens to be at 2. Sure. So like, the engine is only as I would put it there.
1.5, yeah, it's just like like runic bestial and such like that. Crazy.
A highest tier 2 deck that I can think of right now, probably the most played one, Rocket Dragon Link.
We just mixed them all the different D-Link, Horus, Bestial decks together.
Then I guess you could say that.
It's just kind of like the results. If we look at results, they're kind of all come up as just like a Bestial decks, and it's honestly just choices at that point on which one you prefer.
Yeah. I can see that. The only part where I'd have to disagree on it is like, if we're paying attention to a lot of the sets to come, they're just coming out with engines. Like engines to like help facilitate certain game plans. It just happens to go with certain attributes, which, kudos for their marketing team. But
more sandbox incoming.
Like, keep it a beam, bro. The reason why these fire cards are so expensive is because, first and foremost, it's a fire deck, and it's different. And then you just gave this fire deck that's different, chaos space, and cyanide mining or Rhoda. Like, you know,
it's nice if you're playing those decks. Yeah, I don't know. I like the fire deck.
Are they like on the top of the tier 1.5, like on top of Manadome?
Well, I mean, so like, I haven't fully explored Manadium because I just don't have that type of time on my hands. The reason why I say type of time, I mean like Triv, like he been playing that deck for a minute, but he also hasn't been building his own deck for a minute. So whoever's been building that version of his deck for him, like, or whether you do it like they've been working on it together a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know if I'd put it in tier 1 or 1.5 because I haven't explored it all the way.
Jay Watt in chat says, "Yo, Cookie." You got shout outs, bro.
I think that's my boy Jay from Louisiana.
That's all.
Oh,
Shout out Jay.
I was going through results and I looked at Manadium and it doesn't really have NA results. It has like 1 or 2 regional tops in A. In EU though, that deck is absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
But EU players also play methodically, and they play around hand traps a lot because 9 times out of 10, bro, like their whole event, like 80% of the people there are playing 10 to 13 to 14 hand traps.
What's your take on Grant's question saying, are you going into a tournament with the best Runic deck or over Purrely? Is that the tier break?
Yes. I don't care what version of Purrely you coming up with. It is not beating Destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also you. They also just yeah, they just pop your when you go for trap, they just pop your dude and you're like, okay, well, that's that. They also you just also won't actually. Yeah, you also just won't kill them if you start Noir banishing their cards. They're just gonna negate your effect in the end phase, and then you're gonna lose your Noir on your end phase. So unless you open Delicious, I feel like you lose that matchup pretty consistently.
Yeah,
definitely, and I agree with that. Like, I'll take the worst Runic deck over the best Purrely deck.
Oh, I'll play against Runic all day. I fucking hate playing against Purrely.
All right, so then we have
Unchained.
2 left on your list today.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we'll do another continuation of this sometime this week or this weekend. But Unchained, where does that stand after they took 1 red dog out? I mean, they let 1 red dog in the game.
Unchained gets weaker with people like the D shift decks and such thriving, or people running DD Crows. I think it becomes a weaker deck because of it.
So is it a tier 2 deck at this point?
I would put it at like the bottom of tier of 1.5.
Really?
I wouldn't put it in tier 2. So what Red Dog did was it hurt the consistency because I don't know how many Unchained matches y'all have been playing since the ban list, but I do know one thing that y'all all remember is that if they didn't have red plus trap, they had dog plus trap.
Yeah.
That ain't the case no more. You got to have either trap plus Abomination's Prison, or you have to have red plus to get that body back. And they don't have the ability to make Caesar on their 5th summon anymore.
Right.
So I think the other thing with that deck is that Jesse Cotton hasn't taken it to any events lately, and so nobody knows how to play it yet. And I think he's still trying to figure that out himself, but I don't think he's going to drop that deck unless he absolutely feels like it isn't, and he hasn't dropped it yet. I know he's like posted videos with that deck. And the fact that he has not dropped that deck yet makes me think that deck's not bad, because he's not going to purposely play a bad deck.
Right.
So I still think that deck has like something somewhere.
What about like the Lab and Unchained variants? Like, what do we think of that?
I feel like it's gonna take probably a month and a half for somebody to figure out how to put those two together and make transactional rollback just very consistent.
Fair. I feel like with transactional rollback, I know that they're gonna want to play that, but that also
activating
like
the traps in the grave. Yeah, activating the traps in the grave's kind of cool with rollback. Not gonna lie.
Unchained Soul of Rage into Little Knight is still just such an absurdly strong interaction that I don't think that deck's ever going to just be dead until they kill that interaction somehow.
Yeah.
Because that, if you haven't been Soul of Rage into Little Knight, you've been getting lucky. That combo is so strong.
Really?
I mean, whole time, if your deck can support fiends and cultivate traps, who's to say that Unchained is a deck now? Well, who's to say it's not just an engine?
Cough, Goblin Riders. It's a Fiend level 3 deck, and what do you know? There's a few Unchained that are level 3s.
Oh, wow.
So, because I'm a filthy sprite player, you know, I've been testing the Beckoning Beast engine in the Peer sprite list, and what I realized is the Beckoning Beast engine are fiends, and it's a one card Unchained Soul of Rage.
The field spell is absolutely insane, but that's in Legacy of Destruction, so we won't even see that until like April, so that's not worth talking about for now. But it is a very crazy thing to keep in mind as the Unchained.
When do y'all think we'll see Terminal World?
I don't even know if we'll get it. I think we might just get like the 4 new cards per archetype as like TCG exclusives. OCG imports in main sets. I could see them doing that.
If we get the if we get the Ice Barrier card imported before Nats, Sprite is going to be probably one of the most represented decks.
Yeah.
Bro, Kyler, you ain't got enough time on your hands, bro.
I don't need to learn anything. All I'm gonna do is add the 2 Ice Barrier cards to my deck, add some Swap Frogs in, and we have a tier 1 deck right there.
Yep.
Yeah, just getting it in the grave, get the spell, right? And
go off. It's free.
Free.
This is an absurd amount of water cards, especially that the Ice Jade tuner.
You know what that means, gentlemen? It's time to run. There can be only one, or no, not that one. It's the and the band played on, and the band played on, and the band played on,
and the band played on. All right.
You know that trap card or no?
The band played on while I'm playing Sprite. I'm just leaving the venue.
Yeah, of course, because it's you don't get to summon any monsters of the same rank or level you control. That kills Sprite, that kills Kashtira, that kills Rescue Ace to play because they're all different.
He finna normal summon that level 4 and make Little Knight banish that bitch.
It hurts Centurion a bit because they can't make their level 8 play. That's kind of funny.
I mean, that's good.
It's pretty. I think this might be the format, and the band played on gets in, and I hope so because I got like 9 ultra rares of that sucker from the OTS pack, or not OTS pack. What was it? Ultra.
I don't know. I don't know. People are like all the like randoms are like fiending for a floodgate.
Yeah,
I've been summon limited more times in the past like 3 weeks than I have been the rest of my Yu-Gi-Oh career.
Summon limit's kind of crazy. Also, deck lockdown's a very good going first floodgate.
I know it's not on the tier list, but summon limit and Chimera is probably like where it plays best. Like, I
think summon limit in Chimera and in also the next deck that we have up there as well. They fit in the best.
Purrely, it's absolutely nasty in because they can just remove it themselves with their Purrely engine.
Yes.
My god, that happened to me, and I was like, "This is so dumb."
Yes, it is.
And then we went to game 3, and I just bricked, and I was like, "Man, what a way to lose my only match of the tournament."
Just get sacked by a summon limit that he can remove.
Yeah.
It taught me that I should be siding smashers, though. So I learned from it. That's all that matters.
Like floodgates, I think they only are really their best when people aren't expecting them.
Maybe.
Yeah, I didn't expect many floodgates because they're common ones that are going second are banned, and I was like, all right, the ones that I need to pop with smashers aren't just gonna be in the format, so I don't have to play this card.
Degenerate Sprite, dude, you should have known, bro. Smashers is one of those cards you never take out. I was a diehard Sprite before tier with Ishizu. And bro, I lived by Smashers. I'd even run 2 copies at times. That card is almost broke. If it wasn't for having a ban or something, of your own, like that card there would be a legitimate argument for like limiting it.
I'm a filthy just value player. I just play like all the ways to just I just like to grind people out of resources because I think people are bad at it. I think so many people are bad at grind games and like playing like optimally for late games. Because a lot of the decks will just automatically do it. But if you're playing two decks that can do it and you're the one who's better at it, you're gonna win so many matches off just being better at grind games. So I just try to pick people that are grind games, and I don't like smashers because it's not a card that's valuable. It's a -1 inherently.
But it's such a powerful bomb that, like, you know,
it is. And I'm playing it in this pure build, in the Tri Brigade build, where like that just is like advantage city because you're just plussing out everything you do. I didn't.
So that matter.
Yeah,
better than Revolt.
Other than specifically hitting summon limited.
It is better than Revolt for sure.
That's crazy.
I know, and I don't want to play that. I don't want to play either of those cards.
And, all right, not to like go back, but like that's why I feel like Orcust and all these other engines, like that's the power within them. Just like they can out resource you, right? It's like you stop one engine, I got another one. You stop that engine, I got another one. You stop that engine, I got another one.
My other thing is like with the Orcust decks and stuff and like the engine piles, like layering your interruptions is like layering your like ways you play the game is so nice. Being able to just do so many different things that your opponent can't like feasibly interact with all of them optimally. It's just, like, such a nice way to play the game.
Very much so.
My man's saying, he's like, y'all spelling too much, man.
All right, what about this VW, man?
All right, now this Vanquish Soul. Where are we putting the tier C?
No, I've been cooking that deck every time I play against.
Yeah, no, Vanquish Soul's not a real deck, unfortunately. Put that shit in D, honest to God.
I think Vanquish Soul is the deck when you go and you're like, I want to have fun, but I wouldn't. It would be nice if I did well.
It's they lost Tikaboo to 1. They lost even the freaking Gozen match rivalry to 1. They were the very much beneficial off of floodgates.
Can I just be honest with y'all for a minute?
Yeah.
That deck was for people who played helmet decks but didn't want to be called out for playing helmet decks.
You're right.
Pay the bills, bro.
I try to make it work with Castira, bro, and like super heavy samurai, bro, but like it was never going, bro.
Yeah, that's the dude who like, yeah, man, I spent all my money on these absurd stables that don't do that and put them all together.
So I was looking at some older cards from last year that came out that were a bit slept on because we're in a new format and such. And I wanted to talk about, since we were mentioning summon limit, there's a card that can search summon limits, or any floodgate continuous trap card that's been slept on. It is a bit hard to get going though because it doesn't have any synergy, but if you pop it off, it's pretty cool. Have you heard of the super rare card called Pharaonic Advent?
No.
This card is a level 8 spellcaster dark, so that's also great. It's going to be your last summon of the turn, but you can play it in a fiend deck such as Unchained because you can tribute a fairy, fiend, or reptile monster to add a continuous trap from your deck to your hand, and he summons himself for free just by tributing a monster to summon himself from the hand.
Wow.
Yeah, picture that. That sounds like a decent tech card.
It's a silly card you can include into a deck if you want to search a floodgate going first. So you can get yourself anti-spell, you can get yourself summon limit. If you have a deck that incorporates one of those 3 archetypes, which Fairy, I believe the Voiceless Voice can make use of that. Fiend, you can do that with Unchained, and then Reptile, that's a bit later down the line, but there are some decks that can make use of that.
Spellcaster, so you could also use it for Secret Village.
Yeah, you can. It's a spellcaster for Secret Village. The issue with Secret Village is that everyone and their mother is playing Diabellstar the Black Witch. So if they summon her, then yeah.
Also, everyone's playing Dark or Hito right now.
I was about to say, boy, them right there, the Charmers, them hoes, they everywhere.
Yes, Charmers, yeah, Hita and Dark. Yep, you're right.
The Pharaonic Advent is cute. Obviously, it's very specific on the deck, Fairy, Fiend, or Reptile. But
yeah,
if you could use it, it seems neat.
Yep.
Is there a way to search that?
Damn, y'all went through all the decks already? I'm sorry, I was late.
Check the tips. What can you search
No
it with?
worries, man. This is just our first episode of breaking down the meta. We're gonna have another one this
Well-
weekend. So
Well, hold up. Let's ask him this: is there anything on this list that you would change?
Man, I don't even see the list. What? Huh? What is it? On somebody's screen? I'm just talking.
Oh no, yeah, it's on YouTube. We're forcing engagement on the YouTube on the Woonox YouTube.
Oh snap! I'm gonna hear my own voice. Not like this.
That beautiful mute button, brother.
Oh, you sure right. Oh, okay, cool.
All right, are we not talking about the new decks?
All right, guys. Quick question.
Yeah.
Pertaining to this list, are we basing this off of power and popularity, or just simply off what we know from the card game?
of top.
It's kind of
Okay.
a combination. There's like some stuff like I don't respect Manadome having as many tops as it does. I don't think the deck's that good.
I
A
don't
lot
think
of
so
those
either.
tops are EU too. So.
However, right, the same thing was said about the Dragon deck, that I made. Like, my very first like impressions of it were it's a rogue deck, it's cool. People probably didn't know what this did, things of that nature, right? And even though it still continues to top now, you got to respect the fact that even if like Plants did the same shit, bro. We can't keep putting 1.5 decks right where they are saying, oh yeah, man, this shit trash. If yada yada yada, and then it still do what it do, right? Even against players who know what it does, just because it has so many resources. And like, I don't know, like based off of that alone,
Yeah,
I can see why y'all put. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think I'm more doing it as like, if we had a YCS today, do I think nearly as many Manadome would top as the amount that topped regionals? And I think the answer is just no. I think when you get to a field of playing against enough good players that know how to interact with the deck properly, I think it becomes it has a lot less tops.
Okay, so we're
Yeah,
talking
see,
about
and that's-
popularity as well.
See, and that's why I switched the deck because, like I said, yeah, a lot of better players. Pretty much, you just draw it and you lose the draw, And who wants to play a deck when everybody know, like, all right, let me just put draw in and that's it. You know what I mean? It's just like
I don't even think it's just roll. I think if they know that if they just like ash in a certain spot, like there's a couple choke points for Manadium where if you ash in that spot, they need to have like another 2 extenders to do their combo properly.
Yeah.
And so if you know to ash where they need 2 extenders rather than they need 1 extender, it becomes a lot easier of a matchup to like hand trap. But I think a lot of people don't realize that, and a lot of people just throw their hand traps at stuff, especially like lower level players. And so you get situations where like for your first 6 rounds, you're playing a deck that can just win by itself because the person doesn't know how to interact properly. And then you get to the last like 2 rounds where you're actually against like really competent players, and the deck just is
Too much.
just falling apart at that point. Or you like might win still regardless. You might still beat one person regardless, which is why it gets the tops. But like from that like round 6, you're like having pretty like relatively easy matchups as opposed to like you're playing against the best people at your regional, and especially when it's like Europe, where like the players are far more spread out than they are in the US.
Okay, so if we're taking that into account, I would change some of the things on this list.
Yeah, that's fine.
I personally would move my like all dragon variants to 1.5.
Even the horror stuff.
Yes, because even though you might see it top now, the person who'll be going to most of these tournaments and seeing my same deck in the room, it ain't as many as the Rescue Ace, the Fire King, the Labyrinth, the Tier. I can show you my matchups from most of the tournaments I've went to, and only one of those tournaments did I have a matchup. No, I'm sorry, 2 of them where I had mirror matches. And there was only one round.
Do you think that it's better than Manadium, or that it's like greater than Centurion, or where do you think
it's right on the same level for real. It really just depends on these are all decks where their power and ceiling depends on the person playing it. If you buns, right, you're not gonna know that 2 visions and a bestial is gonna OTK your opponent, right? But you know, if you Kyler, you could take any one of these bitches from 1.5, or if you me, you could take any one of these from 1.5 and make it look like a really strong, you know, contender.
So then the follow up question to that too would be then post Phantom Nightmare, where do you see it as well? Do you see it staying 1.5? Do you see it better? Like, because we're also doing a tier list based off of.
I think it's like a combination of speculation as opposed in like where we are now, like
right.
combining both of those ideas.
So where we are now, where will it be post Phantom Nightmare?
Right now it's 1.5 post Phantom Nightmare. I'm being biased. To the majority of the world, 1.5. If it's in my hands, it's a tier 1 deck.
So I think the way we meet that in the middle is put it top of 1.5.
I'll do that.
I think I like that.
I honestly think some of like the big heavy combo decks like Manadome get carried by the fact that you don't have to play out games properly half the time. Like if your combo goes through, you're just winning the game. So you just get to you have like worse players who can just pilot a Manadome deck, pilot it poorly, and still win because their end board is unbreakable. And I think that does help. I think decks like that get carried a lot in like smaller events because as you don't have that, like if you're having the top, like let's say the top like 50 players in the world in a tournament, and half of them played in like let's say like we had like we played based on like the results we had now, I don't think Manadome would be in the top 8 of that tournament. Like let's say all like top 50 players in the world, all of them they played like the 10 top most represented decks right now in terms of top cut. I don't think Manadome would be a deck that's sitting in that top. In like the top 8 of that tournament. I
have to disagree with you.
Really? Even if they play optimally?
Yes, and here's why. Last year's Nats, I was fortunate enough to get to witness the points playoffs. And it was a general consensus amongst all of the players. Most notably, from the person I talked to was Kamal. In those like high skill but small environments, the deck with the highest ceiling is the best one.
Okay, so I think even though it has the highest ceiling, it has the highest ceiling with the requirement that you have to play 1 billion bricks. I think that deck plays a lot of bricks. I think if you have a mediocre hand against a competent player, you're going to lose a lot more often than if you have
I ain't refuting none of that.
Making mistakes.
That's true. But if you plan a 32 man to get to Worlds, which is only like 5-6 rounds, you gonna play the deck that's the best in the 6 rounds time, or you gonna play something that's built to go 12 that's gonna do the same thing every round, and it's not better than what this deck can do in 6.
Argument for Castira then, right? Like, especially now with 3 Unicorn, like Castira can play 9 rounds like efficiently. If you don't break, like you can open shift or Unicorn, Fenrir, Empire.
I mean, true. That's why them dudes only do good at locals.
Cash been getting a lot of tops right now, though, man. It's like that's scary.
No,
like literally where at?
I feel like when I play against Cash, I'm not scared of that deck, which is weird to me because like
the end board isn't as impactful now without a Rise Heart, which is like good.
Yeah, when I play against Cash now, like my experience is playing against a Rise Heart Cash, and that deck was infinitely more threatening. And so now I just feel like that deck's super free whenever I play against it. If decks I'm scared of, whenever I play Rescue Ace, I'm afraid of playing Rescue Ace because I know the way to interact with that deck is really hard. And I know that even if I can break the board, if I don't set up like 2 interrupts to follow up with that, I'm not going to beat that deck. And there's a lot of right now where if I break the board, I need 1 interact to beat that deck. Or I'm just going to kill them. I'm never going to kill Rescue Ace. They have too many bodies. There's too many resources on the board.
So then that merits the argument Manadome might be a tier 1 deck. Like,
that's what I've been saying. Don't get me wrong. It ain't like beating the other 3. You know what I'm saying? But it's up there.
True, but I think I think the list is based off of like we were saying earlier. It's like where it's been and where it's going to be. So I think 1.5 is good for now. Good assessment.
Yeah, and like
I like the tier 1 because I was arguing.
It's tier 1.
Yeah.
It's tier 1.
So the weird thing with me for Manadome is that if I lose the die roll, I'm probably going to lose game 1. If I go into game 2 going first, I'm probably going to win that game because that deck going second has a hard time unless they draw a blowout card. So if they draw a blowout card and I don't have a way to deal with it, I'm probably going to lose that match there. But I will win game 2 in the event that they don't have a blowout card. And then in game 3, if I'm siding Droll and Nibiru and also still playing my same like 9 main deck inner like hand traps, I feel like I'm going to win 75% of those games. Because 70% of those games I'm opening 2 hand traps. So 75% of the time I'm winning that.
There also is an argument that like if Manadome goes second and they have board breakers, like as opposed to your hand traps, like they have enough gas within the engine to just outplay you, and then they just like talents you, or lightning storm you, and they I feel like it's that much scarier.
I don't know. I think I'm coming from a world where I'm playing Sprite and my end boards don't lose to anything other than Dark Ruler. So if they don't have that card specifically, I win.
Sure.
Sprite has privilege.
Oh, on another note, I would also change Tearlaments. I'm sorry, all my Tearlament enjoyers who've been letting this go on long enough. Yes, I believe that deck is tier 1. The reason I got 3 points. Number 1, popularity. People want to play that shit. What?
They do. What? They do.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Tier 1?
What?
Tier element?
I don't know about tier 1. Honestly, top tier 1.5, honestly.
Honestly,
second.
I'll leave it the top of tier 1.5. I agree.
Wait, let him make his case. He's at 0.2.
Point 2.
Second, the Horus cards finna get a card that say search Imseti. And they already love zombie vampire.
Yeah.
More consistent.
Point number 3, right? This one of the few decks, that can play around the fact that Droll's in the format. Because all you gotta do is just you gotta move some trap cards, and that's it. That's it, bro. Like you only search with that field spell, with those field spells. All right. Now you put in an engine that already puts up the bodies itself, and all you gotta do is make a way to not only fusion summon, but put up transaction rollback.
Exactly, and I was just gonna
say, you
say,
already know for it.
Like you get drolled on Imseti, you just laugh like, ha, like, doesn't even matter.
Sure, my guy. Sure.
Like, yep.
Yeah, I think the weirdest thing with tier is like interacting with that deck is super awkward, because like a lot of the hand traps people are playing right now are like, if you're other than Crow, like if you're playing like Veiler and like Mourner and Imperm. To that deck, you're not doing. Those cards aren't doing anything.
Hey, John, I'm finna put you on some game. So say you ain't got no tier names, and you go off do the horror stuff. You do the zombie vampire line, and you hit Ash, Meta Noise, tier cash, name. You just win, right?
Oh yeah, you got everything you need right there.
Like you could fusion. You don't have to fusion. You can put the bitch back in your hand.
That's a lot, bro. That's a lot, and that's what I've been saying, bro. I have a list that a little video that I'm planning to drop like in a day or two about like transaction rollback in the list I got with tier. And Kyler was saying something about that a little earlier about like people not using it like too much, but like I feel that the better tier pilots will use it and abuse it.
Well, yeah,
we got a resident.
If they're hitting,
we got a resident Manadome player. Amir said, "Manadome tier 1.5. I understand it has decent tops and representations, but it still doesn't compete with Rescue Ace and Fire King or Labyrinth. It just depends on how hard the helmet is."
I also think, again, going back to tier with the rollback, especially as they have ease of access to Beatrice if they're running the blue dog, the water dog, or whatever he is from Unchained, as well as like the malicious, like that list was running.
Hey, bro, all tier got to do is just wake up and realize they can also abuse regained.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So what so we were talking. I was saying earlier about the idea of rollback in tier. I feel like it's win more. because if you can get to Beatrice, you can get to 2 fusions, and I feel like that should be enough.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to run all like the bricky traps, but if you want to play Eradicator,
Oh yeah.
I think Eradicator specifically is really good.
I have to disagree. As a tier player, I understand that like it may seem like, oh yeah, you just send 2 names to the grave, but like sometimes your hand in the grave isn't set up in a way where you'll be able to capitalize off that. Like I've had games where I've just made like a Baguska and rollback and like GG's, you know, like what
Just send your Adito, bozo.
Oh yeah, I missed that card.
I don't. I hated that card. All right.
No,
I'm gonna hop off though. That was fun.
I think it's a good way to close it out.
Guys.
Yeah.
So I appreciate everyone that stopped by. Appreciate everybody. Shout outs from Team Woonax, and we'll continue this.
We'll talk more about Voiceless and Goblin Rider.
All right, Sean.
After.
Appreciate you.